I've got the divorce papers in my desk drawer, signed, dated, ready to file, but I'm not delivering them yet. The propane heater clicked on at 4 this morning, same as it has for 42 years. I made coffee in the dark, listening to wind whistle through the barn gaps. Frozen gravel crunched under my boots when I walked out to check the north fence. The barbed wire caught the dawn light, every strand crusted with frost. Last night was the Christmas party at Miller's Feed. Diane spent the whole evening with Brett Haverson, that real estate developer who drives the Tesla and wears too much cologne. His hand stayed on her lower back. Her laugh carried across the whole store, too loud, too bright. I stood by the coffee urn with a cold cup, while neighbors whispered and looked away. Someone said it. Thought I couldn't hear. Poor Warren, she's way out of his league now. I drove home alone. She came back at 3 in the morning, smelling like his cologne. This morning, I needed the checkbook. Opened her desk drawer, found a power of attorney with my name signed at the bottom. I never signed that paper. My hands were steady when I picked up the document. That surprised me. After last night, after watching her with him, I thought I'd shake. But 42 years of ranching teaches you control. You can't repair fence in a blizzard if your hands won't obey. The signature looked like mine. The loops, the slant, the way the tail of the O curved up, almost perfect. But I'm right-handed, always have been. The signature leaned left just slightly, the kind of detail you'd miss if you weren't looking. I took out my phone, the one Tom gave me 3 Christmases ago, before he stopped calling. Took 4 pictures, different angles. The flash made the ink shine. When I put the document back, I made sure it lined up exactly with the dust marks on the drawer bottom. That's when I saw the receipt, tucked under her jewelry box, the Meadowview Inn, Livingston. December 18th, same night she said she had book club. The coffee in my stomach turned cold. Max whined from his spot by the door. He's 14 now, going gray around the muzzle, but he still knows when something's wrong. I scratched behind his ears. It's all right, boy, I said. My voice sounded normal. That was good. I'd need normal for a while yet. The blizzard hit around noon. I was glad for it. Gave me a reason to be outside, away from the house that suddenly felt too small. The north pasture fence needed checking. Always does this time of year. Ice builds up on the wire, weighs it down. Cattle lean against it when the wind comes hard from the west. You let it go, and by February you've got breaks, gaps, 50 head wandering onto Route 89. I loaded the toolbox in the truck bed. Wire cutters, fence pliers, extra staples, the come-along my father bought in 1974. Tools that outlast marriages, turns out. The wind hit like a fist when I stepped out of the truck. Snow came sideways, stinging my face. I pulled my collar up and walked the fence line, checking each post. The wood was solid. The wire sang in the wind, that high metallic sound like a man crying. 3rd section down, I found the problem. Wire sagging between posts, ice-loaded and drooping. I set up the come-along, cranked it tight. My breath came out in white clouds. The leather of my gloves creaked with cold. I was finishing the repair when I heard the truck. Maggie's old Ford, diesel engine rattling in the cold. She rolled down the window. Steam poured out from the cab. You planning to freeze to death out here, Warren? Just finishing up? And she held out a thermos. Coffee, real coffee, not that instant garbage you drink. I climbed into the passenger side. The heat felt like a gift. She poured coffee into the thermos cap and handed it to me. It smelled like cinnamon and something else. Cardamom, maybe. Maggie's husband was Chinese, taught her things about coffee before he died. Permit deadline's February 28th, she said. She wasn't looking at me. Stared straight out at the snow. You got your application in yet? Next week. Don't wait. County's been strange this year. Bill Henderson's permit took 6 weeks instead of 2. No explanation. I sipped the coffee. It burned going down. Perfect. You doing okay? She asked. Still, not looking at me. Fine. Diane was at Miller's last night. With that Haverson fellow. I was there. I know. Now she looked at me. Maggie's 71, been ranching alone since her husband died, 5 years back. She knows what silence means. You need anything, you call. I will. She nodded. Put the truck in gear. Get inside before you lose a finger. I watched her drive away, red taillights blurred by snow. Then I walked back to my truck. That's when I saw them. Tire tracks in the snow, fresh, maybe an hour old, wide wheelbase, all-season treads, not ranch truck tires, not farm equipment. I followed them with my eyes. They came from the access road, looped around near the fence line where I'd just been working, then headed back out. Tesla tires. Had to be. Nobody else around here drives anything but trucks. The tracks came right up to the fence I'd just repaired. The call came 3 days later while I was feeding. Jenny from First National, her voice tight and professional. Mr. Castellano, we need to discuss a recent withdrawal. I stood in the barn with my phone pressed to my ear. The smell of hay and cattle and diesel surrounded me. What withdrawal? $47,000? January 2nd, your wife confirmed the transaction when we called to verify. The barn tilted. I put my hand on a post to steady myself. I didn't authorize that. Silence on the line. Then, sir, the withdrawal was made using your joint account access. We called Mrs. Castellano as a courtesy, and she confirmed you'd discuss this. We didn't discuss anything. Castellano. Her voice changed, softer now, careful. Perhaps you'd like to come in. We can review the transaction together. I drove to town, in the cold. The truck's heater barely worked. My hands were numb on the wheel by the time I pulled into the bank parking lot. Jenny met me in her office. She's worked there 20 years, processed the loan on my hay barn, knew my signature as well as anyone. She laid the withdrawal slip on the desk between us. Do you remember making this transaction? I looked at the slip, my signature at the bottom, or something close to it. No. She folded her hands on the desk. Mr. Castellano, has your wife mentioned any concerns about your memory? The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The office smelled like carpet cleaner and the fake flowers on her desk. My memory's fine. Of course. But her eyes said different. We just want to make sure you're protected. At your age? I'm 68, Jenny, not senile. I didn't mean... She stopped, started again. Your wife seemed very concerned when we spoke. She mentioned you'd been forgetting things. Appointments. Bills. I stood up. I'd like a full account history, 6 months. I can print that for you. And she left the office. Through the glass wall, I could see other tellers watching. Looking away when I met their eyes. That's how fast it spreads in a small town. One phone call from Diane. One concerned wife's story. And suddenly I'm the old man who can't remember. The door opened. Not Jenny. Tom Miller from the feed store, here to make a deposit. He saw me, and his face changed. Warren, you doing okay? Fine, Tom. Good. That's good. He shifted his weight, wouldn't meet my eyes. Diane mentioned you've been having some, well, if you need anything. I walked past him without answering. Jenny came back with the printout, but I was already at the door. The cold air outside felt clean. Ray Bolton's office smelled like old law books and burnt coffee. He'd handled my parents' estate 40 years ago, knew every inch of Castellano land. When I called him that afternoon, he said to come right over. I laid the power of attorney on his desk. The bank withdrawal slip beside it. He put on reading glasses, studied both documents for a long time. Outside his window, snow started falling again. The courthouse clock struck 3, the sound carrying through the cold air. This is forgery, he said finally. I know. Do you know what this document does? He tapped the power of attorney. If your wife activates this, she has complete control, can make medical decisions, financial decisions, can place you in a care facility without your consent. My chest went tight. She can't. She can, if she has 2 doctors sign off that you're incompetent. He took off his glasses, looked at me hard. Warren, this isn't just an affair. This is systematic. The bank withdrawal, the concerned wife narrative, this power of attorney. Someone's building a case that you can't manage your affairs. Brett Haverson, the developer, I've heard about him. Ray pulled out a legal pad, started writing. What does he want? The ranch. Has he made an offer? Not directly, but he's been surveying. I found his tire tracks by the north fence. Ray wrote faster. When was this power of attorney dated? October 15th. That's 3 months of planning. He looked up. Warren, if she activates this document before we can prove it's forged and get your divorce filed, you lose everything. The ranch, your assets, your freedom to make your own choices. The radiator in his office clanked and hissed. Heat poured out, but I felt cold. How long do I have? The document has a clause. Becomes active March 15th unless challenged. That gives us, he counted on his fingers, 11 weeks. We need to prove forgery, file for divorce, and get a restraining order before that date. And then can we do it? If you keep quiet, if you don't tip them off. He leaned forward. Can you live with her for 11 weeks? Pretend you don't know. Through his window, I could see the courthouse, the same building where I'd gotten my marriage license 42 years ago. Yes. Then we start gathering evidence tomorrow. I drove home as the sun set. The ranch house lights were on. Diane's car in the driveway. I sat in the truck for a long time, engine running, heat finally warm. 11 weeks. Through the kitchen window, I could see her moving around, making dinner probably, playing the good wife. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how many nights she'd lain beside me, plotting. The phone in my pocket buzzed. Text message from a number I didn't recognize. This is Brett. We should talk about your property. I can make you a very generous offer. I deleted it without answering. Maggie's kitchen smelled like coffee and wood smoke at 5 in the morning. Her border collie, Pepper, lay under the table, chin on my boot. Outside the window, stars still showed. The thermometer on her porch read 8 degrees. She set a mug in front of me, real ceramic, heavy and warm, in my hands. Not the styrofoam from Miller's or the chip mugs at home. You look like hell, Warren. Didn't sleep much. I know the feeling. She sat across from me, both hands wrapped around her own mug. Steam rose between us. After David died, I'd wake at 3 and just lie there, wondering how someone you've known 30 years can become a stranger overnight. I sipped the coffee. It burned my tongue, but I didn't care. Except David died, she said. He didn't choose to leave. What Diane's doing, that's different. How'd you know I needed to talk? Saw your kitchen light on at 4. You never turn that light on early? Always use the barn lights, save the house electricity. She smiled a little. We notice things, Warren, especially when someone's hurting. The kitchen was warm. An old wood stove in the corner, the kind that heats a house properly. Pepper shifted under the table, sighed. The sound of a dog content. My friend Helen, Maggie said, up in Bozeman. Her son tried to put her in a memory care place. Said she was forgetting things. Couldn't manage alone. Turned out he wanted to sell her house, take the money. She fought it. Took 8 months and cost her $20,000 in legal fees, but she won. How'd she prove he was lying? Kept records. Every phone call, every visit, every bill she paid on time. Had her doctor write a letter confirming she was sharp as ever. Made him look like a fool in front of a judge. She leaned forward. You keeping records? Starting to. Well, good. Write down everything. Times, dates, witnesses. Don't trust memory. Even good memory can't stand up in court. She stood, refilled both our mugs. I installed trail cameras last month. Had coyotes getting the chickens, or thought I did. Turns out it was the neighbor's dog. Trail cameras. Motion activated, night vision. $40 investment from the farm supply catalog. Best money I ever spent. She sat back down. You'd be surprised what they catch. Animals. People. Things you didn't know were happening on your own land. I thought about the Tesla tracks. About Brett circling my fence line like a coyote checking for weak spots. Where'd you get them? I'll give you the catalog. She pushed it across the table. A page was marked. Your fence yesterday. The section you repaired. You notice anything? Just that it needed tightening. Mom Warren. Her voice went flat. That wire was cut. Clean cut, not wear. I've been ranching long enough to know the difference. The coffee went sour in my mouth. You sure? Drove by after you left. Saw where you'd repaired it. The old wire was still there in the snow. Cut with something sharp. Wire cutters, maybe. She held my eyes. Someone wanted your cattle loose. Through the window, dawn started to break. Pink light on snow. Pepper stood up, stretched, padded to the door. Maggie let her out and cold air rushed in, sharp and clean. You're not alone in this, she said. I bought a journal that afternoon. Leather-bound, the kind with real paper that doesn't tear. The kind that lasts, started on the first page, wrote the date, January 7th. Then I went back through my phone, through my email, through the stack of bills on my desk. December 12th, propane company called. Bill 3 weeks overdue. I paid it same day I received it, check number 2847, Novi 18. Called propane company back. They said Diane called to dispute the charge. Said I was confused about whether I'd paid. December 18th, vet appointment for calf with eye infection. I wrote it on calendar. Vet's office called day of to ask why I no-showed. I never got a reminder call. Receptionist said Diane called to cancel, said I was too busy. December 28th, bank statement shows withdrawal for $47,000. I did not authorize this. My handwriting looked steady on the page. That was good. Steady handwriting, steady mind. Let them try to say otherwise. The phone rang. Dr. Morrison's office. I almost didn't answer. Then thought better of it. Mr. Castellano, this is Sarah from Dr. Morrison's. We had you scheduled for a follow-up on your blood work from November. You missed the appointment. I was never scheduled for blood work in November. Pause on the line. Typing sounds. It says here your wife called to make the appointment. November 10th. My wife. I wrote it down. Date, time, what they said. Did she cancel it too? No, you just didn't show. More typing. Sir, is everything all right? Everything's fine, but I need something from you, Woe. Can you confirm in writing that I never scheduled that appointment myself? That my wife scheduled it? I suppose so. Is there a problem? No problem. Just keeping records. I hung up, added it to the journal. Then I scrolled through my phone, found the vet's number. Dr. Chen answered on the third ring. I could hear cattle lowing in the background. He was on a farm call. Warren, what can I do for you? That appointment I missed in December. The calf with the eye infection. Who called to cancel? Your wife. Said you had to run to Livingston for parts. Sounds of a truck door slamming. Calf doing okay? Eye cleared up. Had to treat it myself. Took longer than it should have. Sorry about that. If I'd known you still needed the appointment, it's fine. But can you send me something in writing, email, or letter, confirming that she canceled, not me? Silence. Then, Warren, you want to tell me what's going on? Just keeping records. All right. His voice was careful now. I'll send an email today. I thanked him, hung up, wrote it all in the journal. My hand cramped from writing, but I kept going. Every detail, every phone call, every forgotten appointment, every confused conversation. This is what Ray meant. Evidence, documentation, the kind of thing that holds up in a courtroom when someone's trying to say you can't manage your own life. The front door opened. Diane's voice, bright and false. Warren, you home? I closed the journal, slid it into the desk drawer under the farm supply catalogs. In the office. She appeared in the doorway. New purse on her shoulder. Expensive leather, not the kind they sell at the feed store. Coach, maybe. Michael Kors, the kind that costs more than a month of propane. Where'd you get that? This? She touched it, like she'd forgotten it was there. Oh, I've had this forever. Found it in the back of the closet. Liar. I'd cleaned that closet last spring. Pulled everything out, reorganized. That purse wasn't there. You have a good day? I kept my voice normal. Fine, just errands. She smiled, the same smile she'd used for 42 years. I'm making pot roast for dinner. Sounds good. She left. I heard her in the kitchen, running water, opening cabinets, playing house while planning to steal it. I opened the journal again, added the purse, new, expensive. She claims she's had it forever. False. My phone buzzed. Email from Dr. Chen. Warren, per your request, I'm confirming that on December 18th, your wife Diane called our office to cancel your appointment for the calf's eye infection treatment. She stated you had an urgent errand in Livingston. You did not call to cancel personally. The appointment was scheduled for 2 p.m. that day. Let me know if you need anything else. Rick Chen, DVM. I forwarded it to Ray, then printed it, put it in a folder labeled Ranch Records 2024. I'm bland, boring, nothing Diane would look at twice. But inside that folder, everything I'd need. The county clerk's office smelled like old paper and heating vents. Mary Patterson sat behind the counter, same spot she'd occupied for 30 years. I knew her daughter. Used to babysit her when she was little. Warren, she didn't smile. That was the first sign. I have your permit application response. She slid an envelope across the counter. Official county seal. My hands were steady when I opened it. Application for winter grazing permit. Denied reason. Physician concerns regarding applicant's cognitive function and ability to safely manage livestock operations in winter conditions. The words blurred. I read them again, then a third time. What physician? Mary looked at her computer screen. Wouldn't meet my eyes. Dr. Harrison Simmons, letter dated January 5th. I haven't seen Dr. Simmons in 2 years. Last time was for a physical when I renewed my CDL. The letter states recent concerns about memory lapses and confusion. She clicked her mouse. It recommends a full cognitive assessment before permit approval. The heating vent rattled overhead. Someone sneezed in his back office. Normal sounds in a world that had just tilted sideways. I need to see that letter. I'm sorry, Warren. It's part of your medical file. Privacy laws. It's about me. It's my permit application. She hesitated, then printed something, slid it across. This is the county's summary. I can't give you the actual letter without authorization. I read it. Dr. Simmons expressed concerns about observed confusion during telephone conversation, and patient's wife reports increased forgetfulness and difficulty managing daily tasks. Recommended full neuropsychological evaluation before approval of any permits requiring complex decision-making or safety oversight. I never talked to Dr. Simmons on the phone. Warren, Mary's voice went soft, pitying. Maybe you should call his office. I walked outside. The cold hit like a wall. Pulled out my phone with shaking hands now. Not steady anymore. Called Dr. Simmons' office. The receptionist put me through after a 5-minute hold. Muzak. Some pop song from 10 years ago. Mr. Castellano? Dr. Simmons' voice was professional, distant. What can I do for you? Did you write a letter to the county about me? I'm not at liberty to discuss. Did you write it? Silence. Then, I don't have any record of speaking with you recently, but I did receive a call from your wife 3 weeks ago. She was quite concerned. Said you'd been exhibiting signs of cognitive decline, forgetting appointments, getting confused during routine tasks. She asked if I could provide documentation of my concerns for the county permit process. My truck was 15 feet away. I walked toward it, needed to move. What did you tell her? that I'd need to examine you personally before making any medical determination. She said you refused to come in, that you'd become defensive when she suggested it. Given that behavioral pattern and her descriptions of your symptoms, I felt it was appropriate to recommend evaluation. I never refused anything. She never asked me to come in. Mr. Castellano, denial is a common early symptom. I hung up. Stood in the parking lot, breath coming out in white clouds. Cars drove past on Main Street. Normal day. Normal town. Except the county just used a letter from a doctor I haven't seen in 2 years to deny my permit based on a phone call from my wife. The permit I need by February 28th, or I have to sell the cattle. All of them. 42 years of building the herd, bloodlines I'd worked decades to establish. Gone. I got in the truck, drove straight to Ray's office. He listened without interrupting, then picked up his phone. I'm calling Dr. Simmons. We need this in writing, exactly what was said, when, who initiated contact. He dialed. And we're filing a complaint with the medical board. A physician can't make recommendations without examining a patient. But even as he talked, I knew. This was the trap closing. Diane plants the story. Brett probably coached her. Get a doctor to express concerns. Use that to deny the permit, create financial pressure. Make Warren look incompetent. By March 15th, when the power of attorney activates, everyone in town will believe I can't manage my own affairs. The certified letter came 2 days later. I was at Miller's feed, picking up mineral blocks for the cattle. Tom Miller handed me my mail with the grain order. Got something official for you, Warren? And the envelope was thick. County seal again. I opened it right there at the counter. Didn't think. Didn't consider that the store was full of people, that Tom was watching, that news spreads in a small town like fire in dry grass. Notice of required assessment. Pursuant to Montana State Code 871242, applicant Warren Castellano is hereby required to complete a comprehensive cognitive evaluation administered by a licensed neuropsychologist within 30 days of this notice. Failure to complete assessment will result in permanent denial of grazing permit and potential review of existing land management permits. Assessment must be completed by February 15, 2025. Contact county offices to schedule. The paper rattled in my hands. Behind me, someone whispered. I didn't turn around. Warren? Tom's voice was careful. You okay? Fine. That about your permit. Everyone in the store had gone quiet. I could feel them watching. Jack Morrison by the fence posts. The Henderson boys near the seed display. Sarah Watts pretending to read a catalog. Yeah. I heard... Tom stopped, started again. Diane mentioned you've been having some trouble. Forgetting things. She seemed real worried. I looked at him. Tom Miller, whose father I'd helped with his first cattle purchase 30 years ago, whose feed store I'd bought from every week for decades. He couldn't meet my eyes. She say anything else? Just that it's been hard, that you won't admit there's a problem. He shifted his weight. Warren, there's no shame in it. My uncle went through the same thing. Started forgetting where he'd put tools, getting confused about dates, early stages, you know. The sooner you get help, I'm not confused. I know you don't think I'm not confused. Each word came out hard. I know what day it is. I know where I am. I know that my wife is lying to everyone in this town, and you're all believing her. The store went dead silent. Tom's face closed up. Warren, maybe you should go home. Get some rest. I left the mineral blocks on the counter, walked out. The door chime rang behind me, cheerful and bright. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck, engine running, heat blasting. Through the store window, I could see people moving again. Talking, shaking their heads. Poor Warren. Getting old. Doesn't even know it. My phone rang. Ray. The county's within their rights to require the assessment, he said without preamble. I talked to 3 other attorneys. If you refuse, they can deny the permit permanently. You have to take it. It's a trap. I know, but we don't have a choice. You take the test, you pass it, and you will pass it, and then we have documentation that you're competent. That undermines everything Diane's claiming. And if they rig it? It's administered by a licensed professional. Standardized testing, hard to rig, and if they try, we'll have grounds for a lawsuit. Through the feed store window, I saw Diane's car pull into the parking lot. She got out. Brett Haverson was with her. They walked into the store together, his hand on her shoulder. Everyone would see them. Everyone would talk. And everyone would think, poor Warren, can't even see what's happening. Too far gone to notice his own wife moved on. Warren, you still there? I'll take their test. Good, I'm scheduling it for next week. We'll get this over with fast before they can do more damage. He paused. Stay strong. This is the hard part. But we're going to win. I hung up. Watched through the window as Brett said something to Tom Miller. Tom nodded, looked concerned. Probably hearing about how worried they are about me, how much they want to help, how they just want what's best for poor, confused Warren. The test was scheduled for February 10th, 15 days away. 15 days of everyone in town knowing I'd been ordered to prove I wasn't senile. 15 days of humiliation. I put the truck in gear, drove home on roads I'd driven for 68 years, past the school where Tom was born, past the church where we got married, past Maggie's ranch, smoke rising from her chimney. When I pulled into my driveway, Diane's car wasn't there yet. Still at the feed store, still with Brett, still building the story of the confused old man who needs to be saved from himself. I walked to the barn. Max followed, limping slightly, getting old, both of us. I fed the horses, checked the heater in the tack room. Normal tasks, competent tasks, the kind you do when you're managing a ranch just fine. Then I sat on a hay bale and put my head in my hands. The barn was warm, smelled like hay and leather and decades of work. Everything I'd built, everything they wanted to take, and the whole town was watching me lose it. The blizzard came hard 2 days later. I was glad for it. Gave me a reason to be outside, where no one could see my face. The north fence needed checking. The section where I'd found Brett's tire tracks. I loaded the truck with tools and headed out at dawn, Max beside me on the bench seat. His gray muzzle rested on my thigh, warm and solid. The wind hit sideways when I got out. Snow so thick I could barely see the fence line 20 feet away. I pulled my collar up and walked the posts, checking each one, testing the wire tension, looking for cuts, for sabotage, for whatever Brett might try next. The wire sang in the wind. That high metallic sound like something crying. My father used to say you could tell a good fence by the sound it made. Tight wire sings. Loose wire clatters. This wire sang. I found a loose section near the third post, ice-loaded, sagging. I set up the come-along, cranked it tight. My breath came out white. The leather of my gloves creaked with each pull. 40 below with the wind chill, probably. Cold that makes your teeth ache. But I wasn't confused, wasn't forgetful. My hands knew this work. 42 years of the same motions, the same tools, the same fence line my father built in 1961. Good fences make honest men, son, he used to say. Standing right here, teaching me when I was 8 years old. And great fences make honest neighbors. I said it out loud now. Let the wind take the words. Let them freeze and fall with the snow. The fence was tight when I finished. Straight and true, the kind of work that lasts. Max barked from the truck. Sharp, urgent, not his usual bark. I walked back, tools heavy in my numb hands. He was standing on the seat, looking toward the barn, still barking. Then I saw it. The north gate. Wide open, swinging in the wind, I started running. The cattle were gone. 53 head, scattered across the county in a blizzard. Tracks everywhere in the snow, heading east toward Route 89. I called Maggie first. She answered on the first ring. I'm coming, she said before I could finish explaining. Then I called Deputy Harris. He was closer, only 15 minutes out. By the time they arrived, freezing rain had started. The temperature jumped 20 degrees. Fall spring. Ice melting into slush, turning everything to mud. We worked for 8 hours. Maggie on her ATV, me in the truck, Deputy Harris on horseback he'd borrowed from the neighbor. Max rode with me, nose out the window, helping spot cattle in the gray murk. The rain soaked through everything. My coat, my gloves, ran down my neck and pooled in my boots. Every time we found a group of cattle and pushed them toward the barn, 2 more wandered off. It was almost dark when we finally got the last of them home. Deputy Harris dismounted in my barn. Steam rose from the horse, from all of us. I brought out towels from the tack room. That gate latch, he said. You mind if I look at it? Go ahead. He walked out to the north gate. Came back 5 minutes later with something in his gloved hand. Held it up to the barn light. Bolt's been cut partway through. Clean cut like with a hacksaw. Then broke the rest of the way when the gate swung open. He looked at me. This wasn't an accident, Warren. Somebody wanted your cattle loose. Who'd do that? Maggie said. But she was looking at me. She knew. I'll file a report. Harris tucked the bolt in an evidence bag. Can't prove who did it, but I'll document the property damage. After he left, Maggie and I stood in the barn. Her dog Pepper shook water all over the floor. Max collapsed on a hay bale, exhausted. You could have died out there, Maggie said quietly. In that cold, looking for cattle. At our age. But I didn't. No. She pulled off her wet gloves. Her hands were red and swollen. You managed it just fine. Tracked every head. Knew exactly where they'd go. Didn't miss a single one. I understood what she was saying. I'm taking their test, I told her. The cognitive evaluation. You don't have to. I do. And I'm going to pass it. Perfectly. I sat down on the hay bale next to Max. Every muscle ached. I was soaked through, freezing, exhausted, 68 years old. Then I'm going to take their test results and shove them down Diane's throat in a courtroom. Maggie smiled. First real smile I'd seen in weeks. There's the Warren I know. She drove home in the dark. I fed the cattle, checked them all for injuries, counted them twice to be sure. 53 head, all accounted for, all safe. Then I went inside. Diane's car was in the driveway. Lights on in the kitchen. I walked past her without speaking, went straight to the bathroom, stripped off my wet clothes, stood under hot water until I could feel my fingers again. When I came out, she was in the bedroom doorway. Where were you all day? Cattle got loose. Oh no, are they okay? The concern in her voice sounded real, almost real. They're fine. Gate latch broke. Oh, that's terrible. You should have called me. I could have helped. I looked at her, really looked at her, trying to find the woman I married 42 years ago, but she was gone. Or maybe she'd never been there at all. Maggie helped. Something flickered in her eyes. Of course she did. I walked past her to the office, opened my journal, wrote down everything. The cut bolt, Deputy Harris's report, 8 hours in freezing rain managing 53 head of cattle, the kind of day that proves competence better than any test. Through the door, I heard Diane on the phone. Her voice low, couldn't make out the words, but I knew who she was calling. I needed grain for the horses. Put it off as long as I could, but by Thursday I had no choice. Miller's feed or drive 40 miles to Livingston. I went to Miller's. The parking lot was full, lunch hour, half the ranchers in the county, getting supplies, drinking coffee, trading gossip. I almost turned around, then thought, no, I'm not hiding. The bell chimed when I walked in. Conversations didn't stop, but they changed, dropped in volume. People glanced over, then looked away fast. I headed for the feed section and back. 40-pound bags of sweet grain, stacked 6 high. Started loading them onto a dolly. That's when I heard her voice, Diane, at the front counter, talking to Tom Miller, loud enough that half the store could hear. Meant to be heard. I'm just so worried, she was saying. He left the stove on twice this week. I came home, and the kitchen was full of smoke. He didn't even remember turning it on. I stopped loading, stood there with a grain bag in my hands. And the propane bill, he forgot to pay it again. I found the shut-off notice in his desk drawer. He just put it away and forgotten about it. Liar. I paid that bill the day it came. Had the canceled check to prove it. Plus, I found him in the barn at 2 in the morning, just standing there, looking confused. He couldn't tell me why he'd gone out there. Never happened. Not once. Tom Miller's voice? Concerned. Have you thought about getting him more help? Someone to come check on him during the day? He won't hear of it, gets angry if I suggest it, says I'm trying to control him. I walk toward the front. The dolly wheels squeaked on the concrete floor. People moved out of my way. Diane saw me. Her expression shifted. Concern, love, performance. Warren, I didn't know you were here. I'm getting grain. Let me help. I can manage. Of course you can. She touched my arm. I pulled away. Her face fell. Warren, please, don't be like this. The door chimed. Brett Haverson walked in. Expensive jacket, clean boots, smiled when he saw Diane. There you are. He put his arm around her shoulders, right there in front of everyone. Ready for lunch? She glanced at me, then nodded. Yes. They walked past me. Brett's cologne hung in the air, the same smell from her scarf that night in December, the smell that told me everything before I had proof. At the door, Brett turned back, looked directly at me, smiled, not a friendly smile, a victor's smile. The door closed behind them. The bell chimed again, cheerful. Tom Miller cleared his throat. Warren, about that grain order. I left the dolly, walked out, got in my truck, and sat there, hands on the wheel, while my heart hammered against my ribs. Through Miller's window, I could see people talking, shaking their heads. Poor Warren. Can't even see what's happening. Too far gone. Maggie's kitchen was warm when I got there an hour later. She took one look at my face and poured coffee without asking. Saw you at Miller's, she said. Saw them too. I wrapped both hands around the mug. My fingers were cold, even though the truck's heater had been blasting. Warren, she sat across from me. I need to show you something. She pulled out her laptop, opened a folder marked Property Cameras, January. Remember I mentioned the trail cameras? Yeah. She clicked on a video file. Night vision, greenish. Timestamp said January 8th, 2:17 a.m., my north pasture, the fence line. A figure moved into frame, male, medium build. He walked along the fence, stopped at a post, pulled out his phone, took pictures of something on the ground, survey markers. That's Brett, I said. Keep watching. He moved to another section, bent down. When he stood up, he was holding wire cutters. He examined the fence, took more pictures. Then he cut a section of wire, partway through, not all the way, just enough to weaken it. The video ended. There's 3 more like that, Maggie said. Well, different dates. Same behavior. He's been on your property at least 4 times, photographing survey markers, cutting fence wire. Last one was the night before your cattle got loose. I stared at the screen. You've had these all along? Since mid-January. Was waiting to see what he'd do next. Wanted enough evidence to make it stick. She clicked to another folder. But this morning I thought, you need this now, for your lawyer. Can I have copies? Already burned them to a flash drive. She handed it to me. Small, silver. The weight of it in my palm felt like hope. My phone buzzed. Text from Ray. Test scheduled for Feb 10, 9 a.m. Neuropsychologist named Dr. Patricia Keene. She's fair. You'll pass. Bring your documentation journal. I looked at the flash drive. At the frozen video of Brett on my property. At the journal I'd been keeping for 3 weeks now. Every lie, every manipulation, every forgotten appointment that I hadn't actually forgotten. They think I'm weak, I said. Confused old man, can't manage his own affairs, can't even see his wife's cheating on him. I know. But I've been documenting everything. I held up the flash drive. You've been documenting everything. Yeah. All this time, while they're building their case that I'm incompetent, I'm building a case that they're committing fraud. The pieces click together. The journal isn't just evidence, it's proof that I'm methodical, organized, competent enough to track systematic abuse. Maggie smiled. Now you're getting it. They're going to make me take that cognitive test. And I'm going to ace it. Every question. Perfect score. I stood up. Then we're going to take all of this, the journal, your videos, the doctor's records, Ray's subpoenaing, and we're going to bury them. In a courtroom. In a courtroom. Pepper barked from under the table. Maggie reached down to scratch her ears. Your lawyer good? The best. Then you've got them. She looked at me hard. But Warren, be ready. When cornered animals fight, they fight dirty. Diane and Brett are about to realize you're not the confused old man they thought. They'll escalate. Through her kitchen window, I could see the sun breaking through clouds. Fall spring continuing. Mud season. The time between winter and real warmth when everything's uncertain. Let them, I said. The phone rang at 9 on a Saturday night. I was in the office, reviewing my journal one more time before the cognitive test Monday morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad? The voice stopped me cold. 3 years since I'd heard it. Tom's voice. Deeper than I remembered. Rougher. Tom. Yeah, it's me. Silence on the line. Awkward. The kind that builds between fathers and sons when too much time passes. Lucy made me call. She's been worried. Lucy, my granddaughter, 16 now. Last time I saw her, she was 13. Still wore her hair in braids. Worried about what? About you. And he cleared his throat. She saw something on Facebook. Someone from Paradise Valley posted about you needing a cognitive test. About Mom being worried. About... He trailed off. Through the phone I could hear sounds. A TV in the background. Someone laughing. Tom's life in Denver, 400 miles away from the ranch where he grew up. I'm fine, Tom. Are you? Because Lucy says Grandma told her you've been forgetting things, getting confused, that you're not doing well. I closed my eyes. Of course Diane had called Lucy. Poison spreads. Your mother's lying. Dad. She's having an affair with a real estate developer named Brett Haverson. They're trying to take the ranch. They forged my signature on a power of attorney. They've been spreading stories that I'm incompetent so they can force me into a nursing home and sell the land. Silence. Long enough I thought the call had dropped. Dad. His voice was careful. The way you talk to someone you think is losing their mind, Mom wouldn't do that, and she's been doing it for months. Maybe years. You're upset. I get it. Getting older is scary. I'm not confused. My hand tightened on the phone. Tom, I've been documenting everything, every lie, every forged document. Every time she's told someone I forgot something I never forgot. I have evidence, witnesses, video footage of Brett trespassing on the property, video footage, and he said it like I'd claimed to see aliens. Dad, this sounds like paranoia. Mom said you've been... What else did she tell you? The words came out harder than I meant. What other stories has she been feeding you for the past 3 years? Another silence. Shorter this time. She said you were angry I left, that you told her not to give me your number, that you didn't want contact. My chest went tight. That's a lie. Dad, I wrote you letters. Every month for the first year, called your old number until it was disconnected, left messages with your work, never heard back. Thought you hated me for... I stopped. We'd never talked about why he left. The fight we'd had when he was 37, something about the ranch, about his future. I couldn't even remember the details anymore, just the slamming door, the silence after. I never got letters, Tom said quietly. Or messages. Your mother must have intercepted them. Why would she? And he stopped. I heard him breathing, thinking. Lucy sent you a birthday card last year. A big one. She spent an hour picking it out. You never responded. Mom said you probably just forgot. I never got it. Dad, his voice cracked. Why would Mom do that? Why would she keep us apart? Because if you and I weren't talking, I'd leave the ranch to her instead of to you. The TV sounds in the background cut off, like he'd turned it off or walked into another room. You're telling me my mother has been lying to both of us for years, keeping us apart so she could inherit. Yes, that's... He struggled for words. That's insane. It's true. How do I know you're not the one? He stopped, started again. How do I know this isn't the confusion Mom's been talking about? I'm taking a cognitive test Monday. I'll pass it. And then I'm filing for divorce. And when we go to court, all the evidence comes out. Everything she's done. I took a breath. Tom, I need you to know something. When that happens, when everyone in Paradise Valley knows what your mother did, it's going to be ugly. She's going to look like a monster. She's my mom. I know. My throat closed up. I know, and I'm sorry, but I can't protect her anymore. Not when she's trying to steal from you and Lucy. Not when she's trying to put me in a home so she can sell the ranch you should inherit. I heard him breathing, heard a door close. A woman's voice, his wife, asking if he was okay. I need to think, he said finally. Take your time. The test is Monday? 9 in the morning. Can I call you after to hear how it went? Something in my chest loosened. Yeah, you can call. Okay, a pause. Dad, I hope you're right. I hope she's the one lying and not... I'm right. I hope so, because if you are... His voice went rough. If you are, that means she took 20 years from us. And I don't know if I can forgive that. He hung up. I sat in the office for a long time. The house was quiet. Diane had gone out hours ago. Dinner with friends, she'd said. More likely dinner with Brett. Max patted in, rested his chin on my knee. I scratched behind his ears. Tom's voice. After 3 years, still my son, even through all the distance Diane had manufactured. Still wanting to believe his mother was good. Still hoping I was the one who was wrong. Monday morning, I'd take their test, prove I was competent, start tearing down every lie Diane had built. And my son would have to watch his mother exposed as a liar and a thief. The price of truth. I opened my journal, wrote down the phone call, every word I could remember. Tom's voice, his doubt, his hope that I was wrong. Then I called Ray. I need you to subpoena something, I said when he answered. Diane has a fountain pen, left-handed, expensive. It's in her desk drawer. I think she used it to forge my signature. I'll get a court order Monday morning, Ray said. Handwriting expert is coming to the hearing, Dr. Harrison Keene. He'll compare the signature on the power of attorney to samples from both you and Diane. If she used that pen, the ink will match. Good. Warren? Ray's voice softened. Your son called? How'd you know? Because you sound like a man who just had to choose between protecting his kid and protecting himself. He paused. You made the right choice. Doesn't feel right. Never does. But Tom deserves the truth, and so do you. After we hung up, I sat at my desk. Outside, snow had started falling again, late February snow, the kind that melts by noon but comes down heavy in the dark. Monday, the test, then the truth. All of it coming to a head. The cognitive test took 2 hours. Dr. Patricia Keene was in her 50s, gray-haired, professional. She asked me to remember lists of words, to draw a clock, to count backwards from 100 by sevens. I aced it. When she handed me the results, her face was carefully neutral. Mr. Castellano, you scored in the 97th percentile for your age group. Your memory, executive function, and processing speed are all well above average. So I'm not confused. You are demonstrably not suffering from any cognitive impairment. She folded her hands on the desk. In fact, your organizational skills and attention to detail are exceptional. The documentation journal you showed me is the work of someone with excellent memory and analytical thinking. I thanked her, walked out into cold February rain, the kind that falls like punishment. Ray was waiting in his car. How'd it go? 97th percentile, he grinned. That's my boy. Hearing scheduled for March 23rd. 2 weeks. Can you hold on that long? I've held on this long. And good, because we're going to destroy them. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and old wood. Same building where I'd gotten my marriage license in 1983, where I'd filed for my father's estate in '98, where I'd come to get permits and licenses and all the small paperwork that holds a life together. Now I was here to end my marriage. The courtroom was fuller than I expected. Maggie in the back row. Tom Miller from the feed store. Deputy Harris, Sarah Watts, people who'd known me for decades, come to watch. Tom, my son Tom, sat behind Ray. He'd driven up from Denver yesterday, hadn't said much, just, "I'm here, Dad." Diane sat across the aisle with her lawyer. Expensive suit, slick hair, the kind that charges $500 an hour. Brett wasn't with her. Ray said that was strategic, trying to keep distance between them. Judge Patricia Moreno took the bench. She was 58, worked her way up from public defender, had a reputation for cutting through bullshit. We're here for dissolution of marriage, Castellano versus Castellano, and related matters regarding contested power of attorney. She looked at Ray. Counselor? Ray stood. Your Honor, we're asking the court to invalidate a power of attorney signed October 15th on the grounds that it was forged. We have evidence of systematic elder abuse, financial fraud, and a coordinated scheme to deprive Mr. Castellano of his property and autonomy. Diane's lawyer stood. Your Honor, this is a desperate attempt by Mr. Castellano to avoid confronting his own declining mental capacity. His wife has been trying to help him. I've reviewed the cognitive assessment, Judge Moreno said. Mr. Castellano scored in the 97th percentile. Continue, Mr. Bolton. Ray called the handwriting expert first. Dr. Harrison Keene took the stand, white-haired, calm. He'd examined documents for 30 years, testified in 200 cases. Keene, you examined the power of attorney in question? I did. What did you find? The signature purporting to be Warren Castellano's was written by a left-handed person using a fountain pen with a specific ink formulation. Mr. Castellano is right-handed and has not used a fountain pen since 1987. Ray held up a pen in an evidence bag. Do you recognize this? That's the fountain pen I examined from Mrs. Castellano's desk. A Lamy Safari, left-handed nib. The ink matches the signature on the power of attorney exactly. Murmurs from the gallery. Judge Moreno's gavel cracked once. Dr. Keene, in your expert opinion, did Warren Castellano sign that power of attorney? No. The signature was forged by a left-handed person. Mrs. Castellano is left-handed. Ray thanked him. Diane's lawyer tried cross-examination, but there was nowhere to go. Science doesn't negotiate. Next, Ray called me to the stand. I walked up, hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The whole courtroom watched. I sat down, looked at Diane across the room. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Mr. Castellano, you've been keeping a journal. Yes. Can you tell the court why? Because my wife was telling people I was forgetting things, missing appointments, getting confused. I wanted to document what actually happened. Ray handed me the leather journal. Is this it? Yes. Your Honor, I'd like to enter this as Exhibit C. 3 months of daily documentation showing systematic false claims by Mrs. Castellano. And he walked me through it. The propane bill I'd paid that Diane said I forgot. The vet appointment she canceled claiming I was too busy. The bank withdrawal I never authorized. The doctor's letter based on a phone call from Diane, not from any examination. Mr. Castellano, does this seem like the behavior of someone with memory problems? No. In fact, this level of detailed record keeping requires excellent memory and organizational skills, doesn't it? Yes. Diane's lawyer objected. Didn't matter. The judge had the journal. She was reading it while we talked, flipping pages, her expression getting harder. Ray called Maggie next. She walked up in her good dress, the one she wore to church, swore the oath, sat down. Miss Chen, you installed trail cameras on your property? Yes, for coyotes. Did those cameras capture anything else? Yes. Brett Haverson trespassing on Warren's land. 4 separate occasions. Ray played the videos. Night vision footage of Brett cutting fence wire, photographing survey markers, examining the property like he already owned it. The courtroom went silent. Everyone watching Brett on screen, wire cutters in hand. Ms. Chen, in your opinion, as someone who's ranched for 40 years, was that fence wire cut deliberately? Yes. Cut partway through so it would break when stressed. That's sabotage. And what happened to the day after that last video? Warren's cattle escaped. 53 head. We spent 8 hours in freezing rain rounding them up. Would you say that operation required complex decision-making and mental competence? Absolutely. Warren managed it perfectly. Didn't miss a single head. Knew exactly where they go, how to track them. That's not the behavior of someone who's confused. Diane's lawyer tried to object, said the videos didn't prove anything about Diane's concerns, but the damage was done. Everyone in that courtroom had seen Brett on Warren's land with wire cutters. Then Ray called Tom. My son walked to the stand. He looked like me at 40. Same shoulders, same way of moving. When he sat down, I saw his hands were shaking. Mr. Castellano, Tom, you're Warren's son? Yes. How long has it been since you spoke with your father? 3 years, until last week. Why the gap? Tom's voice was tight. My mother told me Dad didn't want contact, that he was angry I'd left the ranch. She said she'd given him my number and he never called. Was that true? No. Tom looked at Diane. She was staring at the table. My father wrote me letters. Called my work. Tried to reach me for years. Mom intercepted everything. How do you know? Because my daughter Lucy sent Dad a birthday card last year. Big card. She spent an hour picking it out. Mom told her Dad received it but forgot to respond. Dad never got it. His jaw tightened. Mom's been lying to both of us, keeping us apart for 20 years. Do you know why? So Dad would leave the ranch to her instead of to me. His voice cracked. She poisoned our relationship so she could steal my inheritance. The courtroom erupted. Judge Moreno's gavel cracked 3 times before it went quiet. Ray held up another document. Your Honor, this is an LLC filing from January. Brett Haverson's company, Mountain Vista Development. He sold development rights to investors for $1.2 million. He sold rights to land he doesn't own? Yes, Your Honor. The contract specifies the Castellano Ranch. 2,400 acres. Closing date April 1st. If he doesn't deliver the deed, he faces lawsuits from 5 different investors. So Mr. Haverson needs that power of attorney to activate. Needs Mr. Castellano declared incompetent so he can force the sale. Exactly. Judge Moreno looked at Diane, at her expensive lawyer, at the evidence spread across her bench. I've heard enough. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't need to. The power of attorney is voided. It was obtained through fraud. Mrs. Castellano, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal investigation, forgery, elder abuse, financial fraud. She turned to me. Mr. Castellano, the divorce is granted. This court finds you to be of sound mind and exceptional mental capacity. Your winter grazing permit is approved, effective immediately. The gavel fell. Diane's lawyer was talking, objecting, something about appeals, but it was over. Everyone knew it. I walked out into March sunshine. The rain had stopped. Snow melting everywhere. Water running in the gutters. Spring finally coming. Tom was waiting on the courthouse steps. Dad. We stood there, 2 men who'd lost 20 years to one woman's lies. Then he hugged me, hard and long, like he was afraid I'd disappear. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry I believed her. You're here now. Yeah. He pulled back, wiped his eyes. Lucy wants to come visit, wants to learn ranching, if that's okay. More than okay. Maggie came out. She smiled at both of us. Fence repair tomorrow? Tomorrow, I said. The county clerk came to the ranch the next afternoon. Mary Patterson. She'd worked that desk for 30 years, seen me come in for permits and licenses 100 times. Today she looked embarrassed. Warren. She stood on my porch holding an envelope. I wanted to bring this personally. I opened it. Winter grazing permit, approved, signed by the county commissioner himself. I'm sorry, Mary said, her hands twisted together. The letter from Dr. Simmons, we should have questioned it. Should have required an actual examination, not just a phone call from your wife. We failed you. It's done now. Still, what happened to you, what your wife did, that shouldn't be possible? We're changing our protocols. No more permit denials based on third-party medical concerns without verification. She met my eyes. For what it's worth, I never believed you were confused. You've always been sharp as a tack, just not sharp enough to see my own wife lying. None of us saw it. That's on her, not you. She nodded toward the barn. Calving season coming up? First calf's due next week. You'll manage it fine. You always do. She walked back to her county truck, stopped halfway. Your son's in town? Saw him at Miller's this morning, buying fencing supplies. Said he's staying a while to help with spring work. After she left, I stood on the porch, the permit in my hands. Official, legal, all the power Diane had tried to strip away, restored. The sound of a truck on gravel pulled me from my thoughts. Tom's Ford, bed loaded with fence posts and wire. He parked by the barn and climbed out. Thought we could start on that north fence tomorrow, he said, early, before it gets hot. Sounds good. He looked at the house, at the porch where he'd grown up, where his mother had stood 1,000 times, waving him off to school, welcoming him home. Is it weird? He asked. Being here without her? No. I surprised myself by meaning it. It's quieter, but not lonely. Good. He kicked at the gravel. Lucy's coming up this weekend. Wants to see the new calves. Maybe learn to ride fence line with you. She's welcome anytime. Yay. I told her about the trust, about how the ranch goes to her and me now. She cried. He smiled a little. Happy tears. Said she always wanted to be a rancher, like her grandpa. Something warm spread through my chest. Legacy, continuation, the things that matter when you get to 68. We'll teach her right, I said. The alarm went off at 4:30. I was already awake. Old habits. Tom was in the kitchen when I came out, coffee already made. He'd slept in the guest room, the same room he'd had as a boy, before we converted it. Ready? He asked. We loaded tools in the truck. The same tools my father had used, the same fence line he'd walked. Tom and I drove out in darkness, headlights cutting through morning mist. By the time we reached the north pasture, the sun was rising, pink and gold light spreading across the land. The air smelled like wet earth and new grass. Somewhere a meadowlark sang, clear and bright. We worked side by side. Tom held the wire while I tightened it. I held the posts while he drove staples. The rhythm came back to both of us, father and son, doing work that's been done this way for generations. Dad, Tom said after a while, that thing you used to say about fences making honest men. Good fences make honest men. Great fences make honest neighbors. Yeah. He straightened, wiped sweat from his forehead. Grandpa taught you that? When I was 8, standing right here, same fence line. Tom ran his hand along the wire, tested the tension. It's good work, this fence. It's held for 43 years. 43 years. I looked at him, my son. Gray starting at his temples, lines around his eyes. A man now, not the boy who'd left. This fence has held 43 years, Tom. Now it's your job to keep it standing. His throat worked. He nodded. We finished the repair as the sun cleared the tree line. The wires sang in the morning breeze. That high, clean sound of something built to last, that's when we heard it. Hoofbeats. Lucy came riding through the north gate. 16 years old, blonde braid down her back, sitting a horse like she'd been born to it. She pulled up beside the fence, grinning. Grandpa, Dad said you'd be out here. Can I help? I looked at her, at Tom, at the fence line stretching away toward the mountains. At the ranch that would be theirs when I was gone. Yeah, sweetheart, I said, hey, you can help. She swung down from the horse, walked over to examine our work, ran her hand along the wire same way Tom had, same way I'd been taught. Learning the fence, learning the land. 3 generations, standing in morning sunlight on a ranch that would outlast us all. It's perfect, Lucy said. Tom put his arm around her shoulders, looked at me over her head. Yeah, he said. It is. We loaded the tools back in the truck. The meadowlark was still singing. The sun warm on our faces now. Spring finally here. Real spring, not false thaw, the kind that stays. I climbed in the driver's seat. Tom and Lucy got in beside me. We drove back toward the barn, toward the house, toward the life that was still mine, still ours. The papers were filed. The divorce was final. The ranch was secure, and my family was home. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the new grass, good for the calves. The meadowlarks were singing. That sound that means spring is really here, not just visiting. The sun warmed my face through the morning chill. I could smell earth, fresh and dark. The smell of things growing. Tom and Lucy were in the guest house. I could see smoke rising from the chimney. They'd moved in last week. Tom said his firm could handle things remotely for a while. Lucy was enrolling at the high school in town, wanted to finish her last 2 years here, wanted to learn ranching properly. The north pasture fence stood straight and strong. 3 generations of work holding firm. Tom had already asked if we could teach Lucy to survey next month. Pass down the knowledge, keep the precision. Some folks think revenge means making someone hurt like they hurt you. Fire for fire, pain for pain. But I learned different. Best revenge is protecting what matters. Making sure the people who love the land get to keep it. Making sure lies don't win just because they're loud. Diane's facing charges. Brett's investors are suing him. The whole scheme collapsed in a courtroom in 20 minutes. But that's not what keeps me steady. What keeps me steady is this. The cattle grazing peaceful in the pasture, the fence line straight, the permit approved. My son and granddaughter home. The land remembering who loved it and who tried to sell it. They thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just preparation. Gravel crunched in the driveway, Maggie's truck. She got out carrying a thermos and a basket of eggs from her chickens. You going to sit there all morning? She called. Wasn't planning on it. She climbed the porch steps, sat in the chair beside mine, poured coffee from her thermos, steam rising in the cool air. We sat together watching the sun climb. 2 ranchers who knew what it cost to keep land. Who knew that some battles you win with receipts and patience and truth that can't be denied. The coffee was warm in my hands. The morning was quiet. And for the first time in 42 years, I was drinking it with someone who chose to be here. Not because of vows, or habit, or obligation, just because. That's not revenge, that's peace.